Totally okay, right. So, welcome to episode 134. Ben and Dave back in action. We talk about Dave's tanning routine and male grooming tips. We talk about what it actually takes to get a result. We talk about the actual ins and outs of beneficial tips that we believe will set you up for success long term, education and understanding your body. Enjoy.
You.
You know that there has had to have been some sacrifice, whether it's time or nutrition or whatever it is.
Recording myself talking about having a relationship with my chest.
I'm Ben Penney.
I'm Dave Kennedy.
And this is Hacking Health Podcast. Yo, welcome back. Honestly, dude, I think today's the first day I actually feel back to normal. So I'm glad that we're doing this today and not yesterday. I feel like my voice was a little bit off, my mood, my energy was a little bit off. So I'm glad to be back to some level of normality today.
Yeah, that sounds good, man. I will say that this weekend was really great. Just a lot of like not traveling, not going anywhere crazy, just hanging out with family, obviously airsoft. So I'm finally getting, I think, back into like the normal day-to-day grind, which is great. So yeah, same here. I would agree with you. I have a number of I decided to not wear sleeves to airsoft, which was a very bad mistake. So I'm never going to do that again. But I have like literally like thousands of little BBs that have broken my skin. And you say, I think the purpose of airsoft is to not get hit. But
so you did it wrong.
I must be doing something wrong. Yeah.
Good. The videos are cool though. The videos you've been putting on YouTube are cool to sort of see it from that POV vision.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's activity takes many forms, right? And obviously I do the HIIT training, I do lifting and everything else, but I also try to stay active. If it's nice outside, I go around and get a walk in around the park and just kind of free my mind, get some steps in, the blood flow, but also like obviously. Airsoft is a very physical sport as well. You're continuously running around, short sprints, energy levels are up, your adrenaline's kicking, you're trying not to get shot by a million different people. And so it's just a different type of experience, I think. And it's been fun to post those videos to obviously be there with my kids, and my dad, and to be able to do all that good stuff. But, it's been a really cool, fun thing. It's literally like, it's funny because like right now we're starting AAU season, which is basketball, crazy basketball season. So like, you have a normal travel basketball for like your high school, and then your off seasons, you're basically doing like these crazy tournaments and things like that. So like every weekend is essentially a tournament. My first response to Aaron was, well, how does this impact our airsoft schedule and which days can I still go? So, priorities, right?
yeah. You'd be like Tuesday afternoon, just nipping off the airsoft by yourself.
I'm going to do it. So they're open Tuesdays, Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. So out of those four, I'm sure we're going to have a day to be able to do it. But yeah.
Good, cool. Well, actually, while we're here, give us an update on your training, because I don't think we've really spoke about that. What's going on? How are you getting on with everything? How you feel progress is? What direction are you going?
Yeah, so I did a deadlift for the first time in like 3 weeks. It's been 2 weeks. I won't give it 3. But I was actually feeling really good. And the next day, it's funny when you don't use a muscle group for like a week in a certain way, how awful you feel the day afterwards. Like my whole back was just like dead. My legs were dead, which is great. But I've been obviously doing a little bit different type of training and really kind of trying to, stick with a 45-minute to an hour type of workout. So today I trained chest and back, and I had a really good chest session, back session, and really starting to notice a lot of strength increases, but also what I'm finding is I can push a lot harder for that 45 minutes to an hour than I could if I was there for like an hour and a half to 2 hours, or for example. And I've been using a secret pre-workout snack because I lift so early in the morning. I don't really want to be putting in like Cocoa Pebbles or things, and then my stomach's gonna be like digesting. So I found. Do you have these in the UK? Like Gushers? You heard of Gushers?
We don't have them, but yes, I have heard. I saw them in 7-Eleven whenever I was over there.
Yeah, so it's like straight sugar with liquid sugar inside of it. So,
well, I've actually, not to derail your conversation, I've been using the super secret pre-workout snack as well. The strip waffles that Andreas brought from Germany are elite pre-workout snack. the one specifically that he brought, he must have brought like 10 packets of them, and I obviously took one. So I had one yesterday before Jane and today, and I was like, this is perfect in terms of a pre-workout snack.
I'll tell you, I went on a stroopwafel kick for a while when I was a United member. Well, I'm still a United member, but like United used to give you stroopwafels, and this is before I was obviously doing the whole health kick, but I used to eat like 8 of those things, man. The stroopwafels are amazing.
You were eating them for a totally different reason. I mean,
Totally different reason.
Pre-workout, and I'm only having one. But yes, a very good pre-workout snack.
It is, and I've been noticing, just hitting that a little bit of spiking glucose gives me a lot of energy, more so energy than I typically would, and I'm able to really hit it hard when I go in the gym. So training's been going really good. Very happy with my successes and gains. My weight hasn't really changed much. I'm still sitting at about 232, 231. But I'm getting stronger, which obviously is a sign of muscle mass, and I'm looking leaner, as I go along. So feeling pretty good with where I'm at. And I got vacation in 2 or 3 weeks, and I started tanning again. And so I only do this once a year. And I literally go in and I'm like, listen, I burn just by looking at the sun, So can you help me out here? So they have this special tanning bed that you actually scan your skin color ahead of time. So it has like this little sensor, and you scan it on your like your whitest parts, which are going to be underneath my arms. Then they want you to scan your forehead too. And I still burned. It's like you're not going to burn this one. We've never seen anybody burn this one, and then I burned. So, but it's not bad. It's just a light burn. So I got to take a day off. But I've gone 3 times so far, and yesterday or 2 days ago was the first time I actually burned doing it. But trying to get the base tan up a little bit so I don't just completely fry my first days of vacation, which I always do. I usually have like 2nd-degree burns on my skin by the first day. Even if I'm using SPF 9000, doesn't make a difference. I'm like literally in a bubble. It doesn't matter.
Clothes on and inside still burn.
Yeah, inside it's having to be the Caribbean, and all of a sudden I'm burned. I went outside for 1 minute to go get a breath of fresh air, and I burned. So, but we're working around that.
Just before I went to Phoenix, I was like, right, the same idea. I was like, I'll go start using this on beds so that I'm tan, and so I can whenever I'm in the sun. And I went this one time, and it was like these 2 young girls working on the desk, and I was like, I feel like a fucking moron being here. So I was like, like as if first time ever there. I was like, do I just press it? Like I've been there before. I was like, just press the on button. Like, is it the blue one? Like, total fucking idiot. Then I left, and I literally like 2 days later drove back. I was like, I can't fucking go back in there again. I'm too fucking. I'm not about this shit anymore. I'm beyond the fucking idiocy of going in and doing the submit so I can go back. But yes, you definitely are a person that burns for sure.
Yeah, and it's interesting because like I'll do probably a spray tan as well afterwards, just like right before I leave, just to look like I actually have a tan. So it's like a fake tan with a little bit of tan in it, which helps you nothing at all, by the way. Whatsoever. The fake tans do nothing for you, but at least give it a shot so that I can.
Well, you'll definitely look leaner. Like that's
So it's amazing how much even just a little bit of color adds. Like what I am like as white can go, like pale ghost white. In fact, I don't know whoever said it. We were at the Phoenix event. She's like, yeah, I didn't realize you're so white. I'm like, yeah, I'm like really, really, really like Casper Ghost, like there's
you don't know how many filters are on that camera that you
you know how many filters I have to use to get to it to look like I'm not pale white when I post my pictures. But it's amazing how much a little bit of a difference tanning makes on, your definition as well as kind of how you look and everything. And just by going a few times, I've noticed I'm like, oh, hey, I like this. This looks good. Like this is different. I should do this more often, which I'm not going to. But I get nailed every time I go in there. Like, hey, so you have this base. Which the first time I walk in there, I have no idea what they're like. Well, you need a bronzer, you need this, you need that, you need this, and I'm like, well, how much is all this? Like $450. I'm like, no way. Like, I don't need. I'm only like tanning for like a month. I'm like, what's your base package? Like, all right, you can get your base package for like $50. I'm like, okay. So I got a bronzer or whatever, and some face tanning.
I would just like to say to everybody listening, this is not what I had planned for the podcast today, but we're going to run with it anyway.
We're going with it. Which is just YOLO. So then every time I walk in now, they're like, hey, by the way, I noticed you only have a bronzer. You need this activator as well, so you can trick your skin into doing this. I'm like, listen, I can appreciate you tanning folks and what you do, and you probably have a much better idea. I literally just don't want to die when I go on vacation. Like, that's all I'm going for here. Like, so like, you're not going to see me in a month for another year, and then in another year, you're going to have the same conversation again with me because
I still just want the base package.
I just don't want to die when I go in the sun. That's all. That's all I'm looking for. So that's been a nice extravaganza going there. And Aaron and I obviously go together. It's funny because Aaron does the like the 4-minute, like ultra powerful, potent one that like would fry me to like a sun-dried tomato. And then I do like the 15-minute one, which is like the most lowest potency ever, slowly tanning over time. And she's like super tan, and I'm like, I burn. So it's like whatever. Hey, we're dealing with it. So
good, perfect. Well, I'm glad you shared your tanning experience. But agree, to take it right back to, it's amazing how much some hair removal and some tan can change how your physique looks on the whole. Like I've obviously done it time and time again, coming up to photo shoots and whatever, and like you're like, oh yeah, I'm kind of lean. I'm like, get a wax or remove the hair. And I'm like, number one, I now feel like I'm 10 years younger, and number two, where the fuck has all this like muscle definition come from?
Yeah.
And then when you get the spray tan, it's game over. So yeah, I do think though, and again, I've thought about this now. Like, I don't know for me if it's worth the hassle of the hair removal and the awful period of it growing back. I just don't think I'm at that stage in my life anymore where I give enough of a fuck about it and actually growing back. So worth it? I don't know. Done it too many times, potentially.
Whenever I shave like the top of my chest area here, like up here, I always break out like acne too. So it's like and I can never get rid of it. Like it's just like it goes away if I don't shave again. But like when I first shave, it just like breaks out. I'm like, okay, this sucks. Like anyways, yeah. Grooming tips by Dave Kennedy and Ben Kennedy. So
follow us for more.
Yeah.
So yes, training's going good. You did deadlift the first time in a while, body sore. Obviously, I mean, the plan, if you just want to share with everybody, obviously we're coming up to vacation, so the goal is to get a little bit leaner for that. Then after that, we're going to go full send, back to increase the calories, the goal of staying relatively lean and just push it essentially for as long as we possibly can.
I like feeling big. I like feeling full. I like feeling like I have a ton of energy. Like, when I hit that, it's interesting because the stark differences between calorie intake versus running as a surplus or deficit are very different from a strength level perspective. I noticed that when I was on my highest peak around 4,000 calories, I was, close, I deadlifted 600 pounds. I was extremely strong. I had the energy to go through. And then as soon as I started shaving that down, you could see, gradually my strength decreased a little bit as well. Right. And I'm not as strong as I was on the surplus itself. So, for me, it's a little defeating because like I did a 505 deadlift for 2. Normally I could do for like 6, right? But I know it's going to come right back in, like a month, just as me being in a surplus. But it's just like the pride of that. I'm like, hey, buddy, what the hell's wrong with you? Why can't I do 6 of these when you did it before?
Done this before. We've had this conversation before. I know. You arguing with your body.
I know. I get mad at that. I'm having some conversations with myself. I'm like, listen, this is not cool. I know that I'm cutting calories out. I know I weigh less, and I know I have a little less muscle mass potentially or whatever else. But can you just like kick it into high gear here so I can like get these, knock 6 of these out, please? Thank you. So anyways, it doesn't work that way, apparently. Your mind can only do so much, apparently. So,
well, yes, I would say that.
So real quick on your side, so you've been enjoying, you did the pre-workout today, the new pre-workout, the Hacking Your Health pre-workout. How was it?
Yes. Very good. So, I mean, I guess we can share this with everybody. I was hesitant the second time that I tasted the strawberry and lime one. I was like, I don't know if that's the same, but now that I've had it maybe, first of all, I'd like to say actually having a tub of it and actually like being like, oh, this is our pre-workout. Like, this is kind of cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, today I had it, and it's, I know what you mean. Like whenever we said about it being sour, it is sour, but it's like, the best way I can describe it is like, it's a strawberry lime flavor. If we haven't described that, if we haven't told it, you get the sweetness of the strawberry, and then you get the fucking sourness of the lime. It's not kiwi. Dave will tell you it's strawberry kiwi flavor. It's never been strawberry kiwi, but every single time he talks about it,
strawberry and kiwi together every single time. So no matter what I say, just know it's always strawberry lime. No matter how many times I say strawberry, I just had a text message to Ben today. I'm like, hey, strawberry kiwi actually tastes pretty good. He's like, yeah, it's actually strawberry lime again. Just so you know, I'm like, still, yeah, you're right.
It's still strawberry lime. But yeah, you get the sweetness of the strawberry, and then it's like super sour in terms of lime. It's like one of those ones that like it almost makes your like eyes wince, if that's a thing. So yeah, I think the flavor should stay. It's on the sour side, which I like, and I actually think that I'm a big fan of sour things, whether it's like candy or whatever else. But to actually get something that is sour like that is rare. So the fact that we've actually nailed it in terms of the sourness of it, like I'm all for it. But yeah. We got
to message back our team over there, let them know to keep that one and tone down the peach a little bit. So
yes, you should do that now, because we'll not do it if you don't do it right now. We'll not do it because they'll change it because we've asked them to.
All right.
But yes, the strawberry lime is delicious. But yeah, in terms of the pre-workout, like I've discussed this many times. I don't like it being super high in terms of beta alanine. I can tell that it's there, but either the dosage of it and or the combination of everything else in it, like I don't get the super like distracting, like itchy face,
Yeah.
like overly warm sensation. Like it's just the right amount. I feel like there's the level of focus that I have whenever I'm in the gym is definitely heightened. No crash off the back of it. Like I feel energized. The pump's good. The photos in anabolic mirror in the gym have been good. So overall, I mean, I'm more than happy with the formula for sure. Nailed it.
Yeah, the alpha GPC, the GABA, the L-citrulline. You got the S7 from a berry extract perspective for the pump and nitric oxide, and then the caffeine delayed and extended and immediate. So you get the immediate caffeine hit, and then the gradual decline over time with the extended and delayed. So we try to like balance energy levels with focus and energy recovery. So, if you look at some of the stats, like GABA, if you take prior to workout, increases your IGF-1 levels, can be anywhere up to the 3 to 10-fold of what you normally produce, which is going to increase your workouts, which is going to increase your muscle mass, which is going to increase your recovery. So that was a big, addition that not many other supplements I've ever seen incorporate GABA into. Alpha GPC from a nootropics perspective. Just a lot of really good different types of ingredients that we put that were really, dosed appropriately, and also focus on a lot of the research from a safety perspective. So taking this, isn't going to, cause issues or things like that. We actually, it's interesting to tell a story about the creatine. Creatine is probably one of the most well-studied supplements. And this is actually a good conversation to have on the podcast before we get into, putting in the time for results. But creatine is one of the most studied supplements that there is out there. And what most people associate creatine to is kidney issues, right? And there's a reason why it has that stigma, but it's not correct. So what ends up happening when you do kidney tests in blood is it's going to have a BUN ratio, a creatinine ratio, and EGRF. So BUN's going to be, I think, liver, and then EGRF, and then creatinine levels are going to be your kidney. And the process of how we digest creatine impacts our creatine levels, which that throws that ratio off of EGRF. There's a lot of better baselines. Like I think you can do cysteine testing with EGRF, which is a much better baseline of filtration within your kidneys. But long story short, the current metric that we use for looking for kidney damage is going to be off whack because we take creatine because we're going to have elevated creatinine levels based on how it breaks down the creatine. It's not impacting our kidney levels. In fact, they've done thousands of studies on this. There's human randomized controlled studies that are out there that are the gold standard for this. The National Kidney Association has recognized that it will throw off the blood work but has no impact to kidneys. So it's a very safe supplement. However, if you have kidney disease, it can have an impact potentially to your kidneys because you're not filtering right in the first place. You have kidney problems. So filtering additional things through your kidneys, can cause, issues. So you want to try to take that load off. So if you have kidney disease or kidney problems already, slapping creatine can exacerbate that issue. However, if you're a normal, healthy human being, you don't have any kidney or liver kidney issues specifically, creatine is not going to impact at all. Your creatine filter levels is not going to damage your kidneys in any way, shape, or form. And again, there's so many different data studies on this, but what people look at and what they don't understand is that when they see, your EGRF levels with creatinine are elevated, they're like, oh my God, I got to stop creatine. It's damaging my kidney. Well, it's not what's happening, right? The blood work is off because of how it does that. So I've been taking creatine for a long time. And we originally were going to put creatine, and we actually did have creatine originally in the supplement. The issue with that is twofold. One, the normal recommended dosages of creatine is anywhere between 2.5, but really the gold standard is 5 grams. So we'd have to split that up into half. So we have, one scoop, which is 200 milligrams of caffeine. The second scoop is 400 milligrams of caffeine. And you get to split that up. So it'd be 2.5 with 200 grams plus, 5 grams with the 2 scoops, which not everybody's gonna be doing 2 scoops. So you're missing out on 0.2 or, 0.25 portions of creatine. Most people just put creatine either in their protein shakes or post-workout or some other time. And it's super cheap. But it also adds a ton of powder to the supplement itself. So you're adding 5 grams of creatine into an already heavily dosed pre-workout. And then on top of it, the stigma around kidneys. So we decided to take creatine out of the supplement because, if you look at a lot of the pre-workouts that do have creatine, they don't do well because of that stigma, I think, around, the kidney levels. And it was actually interesting because I was sitting next to somebody at my son's basketball game, and I was talking about the pre-workout stuff, and the person was really, into supplements. They're like, oh, creatine, that damages your kidney. I'm like, son of a bitch, I'm like, it doesn't, but, so then you got to explain it, right? But, you don't want to be having to do that, to everybody or as you go through and everything. So it's going to be interesting how that all goes. And the reason why we decided to take creatine out of it, I think it was the right step. I think it was the right,
because we didn't want to have this conversation thousands of times. We're like, we'll just
Correct.
take it out, and we'll create a creatine.
And if you want
supplement
creatine, throw creatine in there. You can get a whole big bin of creatine for like $20.
Yeah.
On Amazon. Get the cheapest creatine possible. It doesn't matter if it's monohydrate or Creapure. It's going to be the exact same stuff that your body absorbs. Get the cheapest one you can possibly find. It's not going to make a difference.
So that's the story behind why we take creatine out, and why we had to change the formula, and why the flavors changed, and why we're having this conversation about the strawberry lime.
And just so people understand, like creatine is like one of the best supplements for muscle growth, muscle recovery, and brain development. So there's so many studies that show, Jeff Nipper just did one recently on the total calculation of how much additional muscle mass you put on. It's like 25% additional muscle mass you put on via creatine. So let's just say in 3 months, you normally would have gained, 6 pounds. Well, muscle mass, well, now you may gain like 9, right? That's a big difference from something that doesn't have any negative impact on your body. Now, some people will complain about, the additional water weight, but what it's doing is it's shoving water weight into your muscle. That's what you want. You want water in your muscle to help the muscle recover faster, but also build those fibers in a sufficient way. And that definitely helps with that. So you might notice a little bit, but it's not going to be noticeable. It's not going to be bloaty and everything else. But where some people really run into it is with GI issues. So there's the stacking protocol creatine, which is considered the loading phase of creatine, which, some people have GI issues with it because you're loading essentially 20 grams of creatine a day for a week, gets you to the baseline level, the maximum level within your body it'll hold those levels of creatine for maximum absorption. Then after that, you drop down to 5. So, but if you just did 5 every day for a month, you will hit that top baseline at the end of the month. So, it's a matter of, do you want creatine loaded in your system, in a week, which may give you some GI discomfort. 20 grams of creatine is a lot to be putting in your body. Some people have, again, GI issues with that, or do you just get 5 a day and then eventually it builds up and you have that the max level benefits. So, some people do have GI issues with it. If you are, drop down to that, 5 grams or, minimum, 2.5 grams, I'd recommend 5. But, those are the things that you kind of learn as you go along and you do this. But creatine is so beneficial in every way, shape, or form. It's like the miracle supplement for us, aside from testosterone, obviously for men. But but that's a whole other story.
But yes, agree. And first of all, I've never actually done a loading phase with creatine. I've always just, I've been on and off creatine for probably the past 10 years. And anytime I come off it, whether I run out or I'm traveling or whatever, I just go straight back into doing the 5 grams a day. I've never actually done the loading phase. You'll get there in the end. But obviously I get asked this endlessly about supplements, and I never go, okay, right, this is a list of supplements you take, because I don't know what the issues are. I don't know if everything else is in line, but there are a list of 3 things that I would recommend to anybody, whether they train or not. One is vitamin D. The second one is some sort of fish oil, and the third one is creatine. Because I mean, like you said, the benefits beyond just being in the gym are, for me, for the supplement as what it is, the cost of the supplement and the research behind it, for me, it's 100% worth it to get it in.
Yeah, and obviously we talked about this before on the podcast a lot of times, but vitamin D, is anti-cancer causing. It reduces your chances of cancer. It increases your body's natural ability to produce energy. There's so many different benefits to vitamin D. It's just, the list goes on and on. It's actually, vitamin D is not actually really a vitamin. It's a hormone that our body leverages, which is interesting. Fish oils. We talked about those studies before in the past, but people, it was the one that was out of one of the most shocking ones that Dr. Rhonda Patrick talked about, which was, if you're a smoker and you take fish oil, you'll live longer than those that don't smoke and don't take fish oil, which I thought was like ludicrous. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. But again, it just shows you the importance of what fish oils can really do, both for the EPA and DHA, brain development and overall body cardiovascular health, joint lubrication, you name it. And then, creatine being that, and then obviously protein. So
what you're saying is, if you're a smoker and you want to live longer, take fish oils.
I recommend cutting smoking if you can.
Well, yes,
but
yes.
you can't, then, hey, take fish oil, you will live longer. So, statistically, it doesn't mean you're going to, but statistically, you should live longer. So,
yeah, absolutely fair. That's fair. Cool. Well, today I want to get into the reality of what it actually takes to have a successful journey, a health and fitness journey, whether that is a fat loss goal, a muscle building goal, or whatever it might be. Because I've heard it time and time again on a number of occasions. It's like, I want to get big, but I don't want to get big like Dave or get big like Ben or whatever, insert whatever person they're compared to. I'm like, this sort of shit does not happen by accident. Like, it's not like, oh, I've done a couple of push-ups and all of a sudden I'm fucking 50 pounds of muscle put on and I'm enormous. Does not happen by accident. But how this has sort of come about, I feel like there's almost like an expectation with people that they do a little bit and they expect that they should, quote unquote, get the result. And the reality of it is, there is my favorite thing about the gym, my favorite thing about training, my favorite thing about seeing a physical transformation is there is no way to shortcut it. Like, regardless of who you are, what you've got going on, regardless of supplements, regardless of testosterone, regardless of any of these things, you still need to put the fucking work in. So there is no shortcut to it. So it's something that has to be earned. There is no should in it. And if you don't feel like you are getting the results that you feel like you should, you're not putting the work in to benefit to, you're not putting the work in to get the results that you feel like you should. And I think that that's something that needs talked about, because I deal with it quite a lot. I think there's almost like this entitlement of like, well, I have a coach and I track my food and whatever else. If you're not putting the work in, you will not get the results, long and short of it.
I think, what I struggle with is, I think what people look at is they look at somebody that has undergone this transformation. They say, okay, if that person can do it, I can do it, which is absolutely true. Absolutely true. No question. But you have to recognize that, you're going to change things slowly over time, but they're going to be fairly drastic changes over time that will allow you to get there. I go back to that video. I just, one of the folks in the Phoenix group was talking about, I just hit this deadlift. I don't feel like I'm ever going to get to 400 or 500 or whatever. I'm like, hey, let me show you a video of me doing 135 pound deadlift. Okay. So, let's just start from scratch here, where I started from here. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And you're doing more than me, by the way, when you first started than me. So it's absolutely attainable. Right.
Mm-hmm.
But you look back at that and the things that you learned back then are the ground support or foundation of the house that you build and the habits that you build to be able to accomplish something that allows you to grow and build that house over time. Right. And it's like you're kind of working on this house as a side project. It's like your own, maybe you're just building a shed. Okay. And you only have a few hours a week to work on the shed, but you're learning how to build a shed because it's the first time you've ever built a shed. And so you got to pour some concrete down. You got to make sure, it's not going to sink. You got to build a foundation for that. You got to, you're going to use wood, or you're going to use steel, or you're going to use aluminum. What's the weather conditions look like? Do you want it to not rust? Those types of things are all coming into formulation when you start to build something like a shed. Your body's no different in the sense that you have to have the base knowledge and comfort level and fundamental work to understand what it takes to get there. But at the end of the day, just like what DDP said during the Phoenix event, it takes discipline to go in day in and day out and push yourself to limits that you never thought was possible. You can go and sandbag, a gym routine and just don't push yourself at all, and you will still see some results, but it's not going to be the maximum amount of results that you can get. It's interesting. I look back at some of my workouts that I did early on, and I could have absolutely pushed myself way harder, right? But I didn't have the level of understanding about what my body was capable of, nor did I have the good form and technique not to destroy my back or my legs or anything else that came along with that. And so, now that I have that, I'm able to push myself, and I know my body's limits. Like, I know what failure looks like. I know what the mind muscle communication feels like when I'm doing a specific workout, right? I mean, we joke about the chest. The chest took forever, right? My relationship has been on and off with my chest. It's just most recently too, since it's been not performing the way I needed to. I'm very mad with my left pec. My left pec is I'm pissed off at the moment. We're not communicating very well. But those types of things are things that you develop over time because you put in the level of work to build on that foundation to continue to solidify. And I think, people have a misunderstanding. Like when I committed to this, I think the first 6 months, I didn't cheat on anything. I didn't go over on calories. And I remember telling the story to you all the time. Like the first day that I did, I had like a pizza and I went like 400 calories over what I was supposed to. I felt like complete shit, right? Because I was dedicated 100% into doing that the right way. Now I've learned a little bit of what I can do and what I can't do, and I've learned my body more, right? And within reason. But at the same time, it has taken years to kind of build up to that, to get to the point to where I'm comfortable with myself, to let myself eat different. Or just today I had Skyline chili, I couldn't resist. But I had a very small meal at the breakfast, and I hit my protein goals, and I'm having a very protein centric dinner, and I'm going to hit my calorie counts just spot on, and my protein intake. So, it's a matter of building the right foundation, but also recognizing that this is a long-term journey and that you're going to learn new things. I learn new things every day about lifting, or about, teaching myself something different. Like the other day I went into the gym and I actually walked out of the gym because I just wasn't feeling it. Like it was just one of those days, just like sluggish as hell. It was in the morning. I'm like, F this, I'm not doing it today. Like I'll be fine. Guess what I did in the afternoon?
Went back to the gym.
I was like, oh, I feel pretty good right now. Let's go. Like it's on, right? I'm not gonna not do this. And I killed it at the gym, right? It just wasn't the right time for me. So you kind of learn yourself, I think, a little bit more, but you still have the consistency and discipline to build upon that. I think that's what a lot of people really don't recognize. I think at first is that it will come with time if you're doing the right things to get there. But if you're not staying consistent and you're deviating all the time and you're not able to build on that foundation, and that shed is, got holes in it, and, it's infested with rats and mice, and it's rusting. Well, you didn't build that house properly. You didn't build that shed properly, right? You need to go back to that foundation and build that up again.
Yeah, I think that the thing for me, I don't want to sit here and do like on my high horse. Like I'm not saying that I nail it, and I also 10 years in still continue to learn things. For me, I think the biggest issue that I see is people not actually committing fully. So like just essentially half-assing it is probably the best way that I can put it. If you're going to put in 50% of the work, you're going to get 50% of the result. That's the long and short of it. And if you're okay with that, that's fine. I think that the thing about that is, for me anyway, personally, if I'm going to do something, if I'm going to actually spend the time doing it, I would rather go full send. But I do that across everything. So, you're going to spend the time, you may as well make it worthwhile. The second problem that I see is people not actually spending enough time doing it. So I'm not saying that there is no right or wrong. But I think that I see people struggle with, they get to a certain point and they have a frustration that they don't get the result that they quote unquote think that they should, and then they just bin it off. Whereas if they just spent another 2 or 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, a year, whatever it is, doing something and being consistent with it, they would definitely be in a much, much better position. And I think that the time thing is often underestimated. Like I put up a photo, actually on Saturday, went to train in a completely random gym in the city centre, and I hadn't been in the gym in 10 years. And I found a photo of me 10 years beforehand, and I put it up, and somebody commented saying, hopefully I'll get this same sort of bulk increase. And I was like, first of all, there's 10 years between these two pictures. So if you're willing to do this for 10 years, then yes. Second of all, there's 65 pounds difference between me in the first photo and me in the second photo. So understand that that's not something that you just hope for. Like that's something that you have to actively wish for, like go and get it. So the total time horizon of things of what you're willing to actually put in, the commitment that you're willing to do it, the consistency that you're willing to put into it, I think is often underestimated. And I think that the biggest thing about it is generally people like the idea of it. They like the idea of getting in shape. They like the idea of building muscle, getting a six pack, bigger arms, insert whatever the goal is. But often the reality of it isn't something that they're willing to do. And I think that that's where the biggest sort of disconnect is. And I think that the biggest thing, or the best way that I can put this, is to not focus on the result that you want, but focus on the habits and behaviors of the person that you want to become is the best way that I can put it. And I talk about this a lot with clients. And I talk about this a lot in client check-ins, whenever people are talking about, family events or stress eating or being busy with work. I'm like, I actively do this all of the time. I'm like, if I'm faced with a decision, I like, right, okay, if I do this or don't do this, is it going to drive me towards or further away from my goal? Is this in line with the person that I want to become? And I do this like split second decision every single time. Sometimes the answer is it will drive me away from the goal, but I'm also okay with it. Like when Kyle was shaking up some margaritas in Phoenix, I was totally fine with that because it was there. It was in the moment. I was spending time with clients, and it was good fun. But there are other times that I'm like, no, I don't feel like this is worth it. I'm in line with the goals that I want to do. So in terms of some sort of like actionable takeaways from this as to how you can realign yourself is have that number one vision of the person you want to become or the goal that you want to do, but understand that the only reason that you will get there is the habits and behaviors of the stuff that you do now. Right now, in the position that you're in this position because of every decision that you've ever made, positive or negative, no matter what you are, where you are, happy or not, every decision you've ever made has put you in this position that you're in right now. That gives you two things. Number one, potentially frustration, but number two, the power to change it. Because if every decision you've ever made has led you to this point, every decision that you make from this point can lead you to wherever it is that you want to be.
I think you hit on the good point on, and that comes out to mindset, right? It's going to be your mindset around envisioning what you want to accomplish and having enough of what you've done before in the past. And I always look back at the struggles that I had, and I think I had the mindset then, but I didn't have the tools, if that makes sense. I knew I needed to make a change. I was committed to make a change, and I tried making changes, but all of those changes failed, right? I failed over and over and over and over again, pretty much my whole life. The only time that I really didn't fail is when I was forced in the Marines, when they starved me and ran me, a million miles a day. I had my own program there where I literally couldn't cheat, the system. I was able to get my weight under control. But aside from that, my whole life has been essentially one failure after another of being able to maintain and control my weight or do what I want to for my body. And I really do think a lot of that was a lack of understanding around body types, what my body is, and how my body works. And once I understood that, I feel like everything clicked and started to come into place, right? Because I already had the motivation. I'd already hit rock bottom 30 million different times. But I still came back to, well, I need to try something. I need to try something different, whether it was a fad diet or, just killing myself with cardio all the time because I thought cardio was the only way to lose weight. You go into those cycles because I didn't know how everything worked. I didn't know, hey, I should be eating a protein-rich diet and keeping my calories in check if I want to lose weight. I didn't know that, by building muscle mass and being regular in the gym with resistance training would increase my muscle mass, which would then increase my calories, which means I can eat more if I wanted to. I didn't know that, cardio itself wasn't the end all be all for losing weight. I would do cardio 6 days a week and I dropped 2 pounds and I gained 6 again, because I wasn't controlling my eating. So once I understood macros, once I understood calories in versus calories out, again, all these studies keep coming out about, the keto diet and, intermittent fasting and things like that. There's literally no difference. Now, don't get me wrong. There's some health benefits to intermittent fasting around, getting rid of toxins and things like that, mental clarity, stuff like that. I'm not going to dismiss those. But when it comes to, from a losing weight perspective, intermittent fasting has no benefit over calories in versus calories out, caloric restriction. So if you're doing caloric restriction, you're doing the same thing as intermittent fasting. You're limiting your calories during a window. They have the same effect. There's the studies have shown, and even the most recent ones, there's just one that came out like 6 months ago, human randomized, controlled clinical trials showing, intermittent fasting has no additional benefit of weight loss than caloric restriction. It makes sense. Like our bodies, again, burn calories that we eat, and we burn, fat stores that we need for additional calories. So if we're, being very consistent with our eating and we know what we're eating and we're staying under our baseline of calories, we're going to lose weight. Now, what most people do, and this is what I would do, is I'd starve myself, right? So I'd eat, 500 calories a day and wonder why I felt like total shit. And I couldn't, sleep. I couldn't, focus. I couldn't get work done. I was just a slug. I didn't want to go and work out. Like there's a balance, and everything comes in moderation. I think that's a big key here is moderation, that, you have to eat enough to have the right energy levels. You have to do the right types of exercises of movements, i.e. resistance training, or, cardiovascular is your thing, but you have to to balance all of those in an ecosystem that allows your body to adjust appropriately to the conditions around you. And I wouldn't have known that had I not obviously gone with you, Ben, and learned all of this, and learned how my body works to be successful at this. And so, I think the mindset's there for a lot of people. They just don't know the knowledge around what it takes to actually go and do it, right? So I think there's a few different categories of people, right? People that need to build a mindset to get there. Like, I need to change my habits. I need to go and do it. But then there's the ones that are like, well, hey, I'm doing it, but I'm just not working because I don't understand this, right? I think I know, but I don't know. And it's about getting back to understanding your bodies. And ultimately, at the end of the day, what changes you need to make to get to that point. I was just talking to Alec on the about he was always feeling like crap during workouts. I was like, well, introduce some carbs at the beginning. So he's got a carb workout shake. He's got dextrose, and he's using that as a shake. And he's like, I feel a lot better during my workouts. I have a lot more energy. It's about knowing your body, right? Like he's already relatively lean, but he's a big guy. He's tall. I think he's the same height as me, like 6'4". And we require a lot of energy, right? Our big bodies move around. So getting a little bit of pre-carbs prior to workout or a meal before you work out had a big impact on him because again he didn't understand why he was feeling like shit when he was going and working out. Well, you didn't have any food in your body. Your body needs energy to go and do it, and halfway through your energy, you just burn through everything. You need something to keep you going. So it's those little modifications, little changes, but again, understanding your body that makes a big difference. And I think in a lot of the success that we see with most people, and most people that end up sticking with this long term, they have a good foundational understanding around how their bodies work and what they relate to. Like me cutting down on calories and dropping weight, no problem. Me going up in calories and gaining weight, no problem, right? It's just a matter of little tweaks here and there, and slowly going down, slowly going up, slowly going down, slowly going up. And I still make the progress that I need to, even though my deadlifts did suffer a little bit. I'm just going to break that out again to my mind. But
we can
again,
get it to the specific block whenever we get whenever calories can increase, so that you can get it. Even if you get a 601 deadlift, like, it's fine. Do you know what I mean? If you put a 0.5 pound plate on either side, and it's absolutely still progress, right?
Half a pound plate, no problem.
Yeah, but for me, like, well, number one, the reason that I sort of have the process, and actually I sort of touched on this last week when I sent you a voice note about sort of changing things up. The goal for me is to educate everybody that I ever work with. Like, that is the goal, because there's no point in working with me, getting you from A to B, and then whenever we don't work together, you don't have an idea of the what it is that you're doing. Like, I don't want people to be totally dependent on me. The goal is education the whole way through. And while there is education that's sort of like high level education, those sort of nuances and bits in between are the important stuff. So it's like, it's not necessarily me about teaching you specifically about macros, about training, about cardio, about how your body works, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's about, okay, what works for you specifically? What do we do to change your calories based on this event's going on, or we're changing direction on this? Like, what works for you and your body around nutrition, timing, training, cardio, et cetera, and giving you the tools. And the reason that I do that is because Callum, the second coach that I ever worked with, Callum, and I worked with him for the longest time. And the only reason that I do not work with him anymore is because he only coaches like bodybuilders and athletes. And I love the guy to bits, but I don't love him enough to stand on stage in my pants and be judged for how I look. But he gave me those tools for me. Like, he gave me an understanding of me and my body. And, I've talked about it time and time again. I understand that my body operates on higher amounts of food, lower amounts of fat, higher carbs, higher protein. I feel good. I can get away with doing less cardio because I have generally quite a high output. I know what it takes in terms of training. I know what to change things in terms of my training based on, if I'm trying to change direction and things like that. But that comes down to literally years of trial and error. Like, it's the continued experiment that we always talk about. So giving the education back to everybody so they have the tools that they can do this longer term. And one thing that I'm working on at the minute is creating sort of, I guess, an education process. I know that within the industry, certificates are a big thing. So some sort of We Hack Health graduation certificates that people can do as they can graduate. They have the knowledge, so that they can continue to I guess pass it on as well. Like, I see people like Thomas, he's super keen to be involved with everybody whenever we were in Phoenix and sort of share the knowledge that he's gained. And if you think back, I know that you won't remember because you were stuck in the bedroom, but if you think back to Thomas in Colorado, like, he's a completely different person, just sort of getting involved and getting in the mix with everybody. And for me, sort of seeing that things that they have learned that I have taught them, or they've learned just through their own trial and error with training, and they want to sort of share that knowledge with people, is exactly what this whole thing's about. Because it's not necessarily about the people that I work with directly. It's the people that they impacted the people that they impact and the sort of the ripple effect that goes beyond that. But yeah, long story short, it's about the education. It's about understanding what works for you and your body. It's about putting the fucking work in. It's about being consistent. It's about understanding every decision that you make is going to drive you closer to your goal or further away from your goal, and being okay with whatever decision you make in that moment.
Yeah, I always look back because I take what I know now for granted sometimes. I go back to that Medium post every once in a while. When everybody's like, hey, how'd you get started? I'll share the Medium post that I did, kind of the write-up of my start. And I always look back and I'm like, man, like, think about how much I knew then and how much I know now. But I take a lot of what I knew then for granted because, it was a lot to build up to where I'm at today. But I don't think about that every day, right? I don't think about the grind that I did 2 years ago or 3 years ago. I think about the grind that I'm doing now and where I need to go next, right? And using your applied knowledge in that area to build upon what you've done, which is what we do in life, right? We do this for our jobs, for our families. We build our families up. We build our houses up. We build our job, careers and what we do from that, our knowledge in cybersecurity or whatever it ends up being. We're doing this on a regular basis, but it requires us to have a focus and prioritization that is as strong as family, that is as strong as, your work, that is as strong as your career, what your goals are, because this is a life goal as well. If your life goal is to be a millionaire, okay, good, go do it, right? Put your mind to it, focus on that and go in that direction until you get there, right? And you're going to have that long-term goal, but you're not going to get there overnight again, unless you win the lottery or something, which is, really probably not going to happen. So if you're banking on that, probably not a good long-term objective. But if you're putting the right stuff in place, like I'm going to start my own business, I'm going to do this from the ground up, I'm going to do that, right? You have that long-term vision of what you want to accomplish. Lifting and your health and your goals and accomplishments are no different than that. You have to look forward ahead and say, I want to get to this point sometime, and how do I get there? And I'm going to have ups and downs, just like you would if you want to, be successful in your career or build a family and, date and get married and have kids or whatever your goals are. It takes effort and time and vision to get to that point, right? It doesn't just happen by mistake. Again, unless you win the lottery.
But you can't win the body lottery. Like you
can't win the body lottery.
Win a 6-pack. Like you're not going to just pick up with a 6-pack overnight.
Someday maybe we'll have a pill that does that. Which I'd be the first to try it out. Like if it gives me a 6-pack, I'm in. Like I got a good 4. Like the 5th kind of shows a little bit here and there, but my 6th is still hiding. So I'll take that pill. But when it gets to the point of goal and vision, your life has to be aligned. Your vision, your mental mindset has to be aligned with that long-term goal. So, physical fitness becomes a part of you. It becomes a part of your journey in life. And there's really no other way, in my opinion, to do it, because if you're just doing it half-assed, or if you're just doing it every once in a while, you're not going to have the benefits. Your body isn't morphing to its surrounding conditions because you're not in those conditions all the time. The way our bodies respond is being in those conditions all the time for it to grow muscle or to lose body fat or to whatever we need to do. We need to be in those conditions regularly and frequently, which is, why we have the intervals of training that we do, the resistance training, the amount of reps and sets, because our body reacts to certain stimuluses in different ways. And yes, there's 10 different ways to skin a cat when it comes to muscle growth and hypertrophy and strength and endurance and everything else. But our bodies adapt to what we do. If we're lifting heavy, lifting super heavy, we're going to get stronger. If we're lifting longer for more sets and reps, our muscles are going to grow from an endurance perspective, so we can do that more often. It's just the way our bodies interact to continual strain in different areas. And those are the things that make a big difference. You have to have that long-term focus. My goal, is by 50, I can do a 7,000 pound deadlift. Okay. Now it's not going to happen, but I have that goal, right? 7,000 pound deadlift at 50. That's what I'm going for. Okay.
Okay. Well, let me know how you get on. Let me know how you get on that. I'm not getting involved.
What do I got to do? What do I got to do?
You need to speak to someone else. But I think that making it a part of you is exactly what we were speaking about in Phoenix. It becomes a part of your identity, and I focus heavily on this because we own the things that we have in our life. Like you're hacking Dave, the hacker. You're a hacker. That is your identity. Yeah. To take your identity from, you can still have that identity and you can have another identity. It's like, instead of having the gym as something that you do because you want to lose weight or you want to build muscle, is you go to the gym because you're a person that goes to the gym. It doesn't need to be for a specific reason. It can become your identity, or it become part of your identity as well. And I know that we often talk about like that switch, like that time whenever you're like, this sucks, this sucks, this sucks. Actually, this is okay. I want to go to the gym. I'm not necessarily saying that this is exactly what happens. No scientific studies. I've seen it time and time again, though. It's like, whenever that switch flips, I think that that's whenever you accept that it's part of your identity. You stop fighting it because you're doing it for a specific reason, and you go to doing it because it's a part of who you are and it's something that you want to do. It's your habits, it's your behavior, it's your long-term focus, because you understand that this thing is going to be beneficial for you right now and also future you. So taking the thing, going to the gym, and making a part of you, your identity, and doing that long-term, consistently over time, having the vision of the person that you want to become, keeping that person in mind at all times, and making your decisions based on what that person would do or whether that will drive you towards or away from your goal, is how I would deem most people have success longer term.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point to bring up on the, you know, what I do like about newbie lifters, right, is they do see success fairly quickly.
Yeah.
Right? If you're staying consistent with things. As you get further down this road, that becomes less and less and less. Like, you don't get as many gains as you do early on.
Which sucks. I will say
Which
this,
really
for
sucks.
training, it's like,
Yeah.
the more work you put, and whether it's fat loss or muscle building, and I'll say this time and time again, the more work that you put in, the harder it is to get a result. Like, what the fuck
Yes.
sort of bullshit's that?
Yeah.
It's like the opposite.
Who designed this system here? I got some complaints. Where I fill out my HR form here for body
It's like,
design.
at the start, it's hard because you're trying to build the habits and the behaviors, so you're not really fully invested in it, but you get the results. So it's like easier to be a little bit more attached. But on the other side of that, you're a year in, you're 3 years in, you're 5 years in, everything becomes infinitely more difficult. So like, 5 pounds of muscle takes 5 times the amount of time that it did before. I'm like, what sort of bullshit is this? It's like, the more work that I put in, the more difficult it becomes. It's bullshit. The whole thing's bullshit.
And that's the thing. Like, if you don't have a good foundation to build upon, as you start to get more progressive with this, and as you start to get more ingrained with this, if you don't have that foundation there, then you're going to be really frustrated. You're going to be really disenfranchised with lifting because you're not seeing the success you have. Now, I also say, it's the exact opposite too. For those that have been athletes before, have done lifting before, it's much faster for those folks to rebuild muscle much faster than those that haven't. Our muscles actually remember, believe it or not, the previous muscle mass that they had to, so they can get there quicker. Bodies are extremely incredible pieces of work. But again, if you're not built off of a solid foundation, like my biggest fear, especially when getting injured, was, well, if I get injured and I can't go and lift, I'm going to get out of this habit and I'm going to go back to being old Dave, which right now is total bullshit. Like I can't wait to get back into the gym from an injury, right? I'm like chomping at the bit because it's part of my life. It's part of my long-term goals. I've already built a foundation in it. It's part of my identity. And don't get me wrong, there are days where I'm like, I don't feel like fucking lifting. Like, I just, I feel like shit.
Can we create a parody Twitter account at Lifting Dave? I think it'd be fucking hilarious.
That'd be great. We get an AI bot to generate it for us. It'd be insane. But I know back at the end of the day, that's just one day. And that the next day I'm going to feel like, man, I feel like complete crap because I didn't go and lift yesterday, even though maybe I didn't sleep, or I drank too much, or, I ate like crap, or maybe I was traveling a lot and I'm jet lagged. Who knows? But, I know that I have the foundation built to get right back into it again, to not go and do it. And it's like, I always relate it back to the habits that we've built throughout our entire life. Like, we know that we have to take a shower every day or we're going to stink, right? And people are going to look at us funny. We know that we have to put deodorant on. We know that we have to brush our teeth. We know that we have to go to sleep, right? These things that we continuously have to focus on day in and day out as a normal routine, lifting becomes the same thing, or our health becomes the same thing. And those are the pieces that I think people really need to focus on, which is making this as part of your daily routine. And I was just explaining this to Mason, my youngest son, the other day. He's like, Dad, he's like, I really hate lifting. I'm like, I can understand that. You're 13 years old. I could understand.
Would rather be playing Fortnite.
Would rather be playing Fortnite. I totally understand that. I'm like, but the way that I look at it, he's like, well, can you hold me accountable for like a month? I'm like, I'll hold you accountable all the time if you want. And it's what we talked about putting on True Coach and everything else, which I think would be really cool. I'll give you those addresses here shortly. But I'm like, listen, buddy, the biggest thing that I can instill in you is that you don't have a choice. You have to go. Think about it that way. Like you hate going to school, right? Well, yeah, but you have to go to school, right? Yeah. Well, why do you have to go to school? Because I'll get in trouble with you guys. I'm like, well, yeah, that's true, but you have to go to school because it's part of your daily routine to learn, right? And to graduate, and to have a focus on family and focus on being successful and everything else. If you don't graduate, your chances become substantially harder, right? So you can't just drop out of school because you probably won't be successful in life. Do you want to be successful in life? Well, yeah, Dad, I want to be successful at life. I'm like, cool. Well, do you want to be jacked and buff and have a lot of muscles? Well, yeah, I want that too. I'm like, cool. Well, you don't have a choice now. You have to go to the gym to get there. I'm like, so in order for you to get to the goal that you want, you have to have that mindset of, I don't have a choice to go or not. I'm not going to be lazy today, because even if I am going to be lazy today, I don't have a choice. Like, you can be lazy, but I'm still going to beat the shit out of my muscles because I have to do it. So it's framing your mind in a different way. And, we always talk about this too, but as you start to lift and as your body gets acclimated to actually going and doing it, you start to enjoy lifting. I enjoy lifting. I love going to the gym now. I love that feeling of burning my muscles out, pushing myself to new levels, trying different routines, doing something different, whatever it ends up being. But that takes time. But the thing that was really a game changer in my mindset was pushing forward and really trying to change my habits to where I don't have a choice. I don't have a choice to go, and I'm going to go. I have to.
Yeah, and it comes down to, you can frame it in whatever way you want. That's what discipline is, or insert, taking your emotions out of the equation, or whatever you've got going on, you do it anyway. And that's one of my favorite phrases that we have within the team and within the community, is do it anyway. And yes, okay, we maybe do throw it about in situations, but it comes down to, regardless of what's going on, you have a thing to do. You've made a commitment and a promise to yourself to do it. So you shut the fuck up and you get it done anyway.
Yep. That's a lesson. Well, that was a great podcast, man. That was good.
Thanks for doing it with me.
Yeah, it was a good idea. I'm like, what are we talking about today? Ben's like, oh, I got one. Trust me. I'm like, okay, I like this one. This is great.
Strap yourself in.
Strap yourselves in, boys and girls. But thanks for tuning in for this week's podcast. Tune in again next week. We'll be here every single time. And I still have to listen to the Phoenix one. I haven't had a chance to listen to that yet. I can't wait to dive down into that one that got released today, actually, right? Got released today?
No, the one that we got released today is the one that we recorded last week. You can listen to it, but you were a part of it.
Oh, when's the Phoenix one?
I'll need to speak to Dill. He's the man with the information.
Okay, all right.
But you'll be the first to know. The second,
okay.
I'll know first.
So I'm not missing anything right now.
Not yet. You're good.
Okay.
I'm excited to listen to that as well because of the setup of it. But yes, thanks for listening. Share us with your friends, family, associates, work colleagues, kids, whoever. Catch us at We Hack Health on all social media platforms, and I'll see you next week.
See y'all later.